Actually, I'll go ahead and I'll just introduce myself and do some practical bits. Several of you have done a few of these webinars already. Just want to let you know up front, if you're new, questions are welcome. And we really encourage as many questions and as much feedback as we can get throughout the webinar. Just type those things into the chat window. Lindsay's going to monitor that with the exception of while we're doing the counseling demonstration. I'll try and keep an eye on it, but I might have to awkwardly squint at the screen to read. I'm very nearsighted. But yeah, just keep those questions coming, or feedback, or if I'm not clear about something, let me know so that we can fix that and make sure that everybody's getting the most out of this that we can make. So really glad that you guys are with us. I'm Calvin Armerding. I am a senior associate here at Travelers Rest Counseling Associates. It's a small private practice in Travelers Rest, South Carolina. I'm a licensed professional counselor in the state of South Carolina, and I've had the luxury, the privilege of training under some really great Adlerians who have really given me a wonderful perspective and approach to working with the clients that I have, and so I just want to share that, to pay it forward and share some skills and some strategies that I found helpful. So this evening we're going to be talking about early recollections and also dreams. Now, why we're looping these two things together is because there's a fair amount of overlap in how I conceptualize early recollections and dreams and how I work with early recollections and dreams. It's to give both early recollections and dreams an adequate amount of time. We'd probably need a 5-hour webinar or something like that. But so this is just going to be kind of the quick and dirty, straightforward, very direct approach that we use with this stuff. So what we're going to do, we're going to lay down some basic theory, some basic premises so we know why we're doing what we're doing. Then I'm going to show you an approach that I use to working with early recollections and dreams. Lindsay's going to help me out with this. She'll come up here and we're going to do a short demonstration for you so you can see what we do. And then I'll just kind of let you know what's going through my mind and how I'm thinking while that demonstration is happening. And then, of course, we'll take some questions at the end and we can talk about how we use the information that I gather during this demonstration to help us conceptualize cases and plan treatment interventions. Okay, so let's talk early recollections and dreams. Let's talk memory. Some things that we know about memory. We have an incredible ability in our brain to store information and to store memories. What we don't have an incredible ability to do is to recall all of what we store. Okay, and why this is meaningful is that Adler and a student of his, Lydia Sitcher, they talk about our memories, our experiences in life being kind of like a grab bag. Okay, it's this big bag that's full of all of our memories and experiences. And then what we do is that we stick our hand down inside and we feel around till we find a memory that seems to suit us. Okay, and I'm saying that we're doing this unconsciously, and then we pull that out, and of course this is what we call recall, right? And so now we can remember this. We also know that how we remember things, it's a fairly unreliable thing, our memory. Our emotional state, the phase in life that we're in, all these things color how we remember events. And then also we know this now, that when we remember something, like in the present moment, if I'm thinking back to my earliest childhood experience, what I'm remembering is not actually that event. I'm actually I'm recalling the last time that I remembered it, and that time I'm recalling the last time before that, and on back. So there's a kind of game of telephone that happens, if you ever played that game as a kid, that happens from the experience moving forward in life. So it gets translated, and so early recollections for Adler, they function really as a kind of projective technique, almost like a Rorschach for a psychoanalyst, where the memory and how we remember the memory, how we report it, what we seem to notice about the memory, the emotion that it evokes, all of that is a lot more reflective of who we are in the present moment and for Adlerians, what we're looking for is the style of life. What does it indicate about the style of life? And we think style of life, let's just think of it this way, that it's a patterned way of managing challenges. It's how we've found a way to make our way through life that helps life to go well for us, or at least help it to not go terribly. Okay, that's the strategy that we take on, the patterned way of managing challenges that we have. So now dreams, on another level, dreams are, we can think of dreams in this way, that they are stories that we tell ourselves that don't have to play by the rules of logic. Okay, so in our waking life, we might think through things or process things or even tell ourselves stories, but they're all constrained by logic. Okay, so I don't get to decide that I can fly. I don't get to, my lamp in my office suddenly doesn't become a frog and belch an opera. Okay, and these are only things that can happen in dreams, and part of what that does is it allows for a lot of honest expression of the types of stories that we tell ourselves. Now, here's why this is important. How I want us to think of early recollections and dreams, and also Adler worked a lot with daydreams too. So that's kind of like in the waking world, how we tell ourselves stories, but again, that don't always have to play by the rules of reality, right? I can imagine myself as the King of England, or imagine myself as the starting quarterback for the Dallas Cowboys, or whatever else, which that would not be it for me, okay? But I can imagine myself in all these different scenarios, and it's not constrained by the rules of reality. So now here's how I want us to think about early recollections, dreams, daydreams. Here's what they are. They are warning labels and advertisements. Okay, now here's what I mean. Warning labels are saying, beware, look out. This is something that could go badly. You know, it's like when you pick up a pack of cigarettes and there's the warning label, and it says, it can cause this problem, and don't smoke while you're pregnant, or it can cause birth defects, or anything like this. It's this thing that it's almost like our mind is forcing us to look at this warning label to say, hey, this could go bad. This is a way that things can go badly. Or it can serve as an advertisement to say, hey, look what our, Lindsay, you were saying that you sometimes refer to them as billboards. Yeah, it's like, here's our product, here's what it could do for you, here's how it could make your life better, right? And so our mind calls these things to mind to say, this is a way that life can go well. This is how you can make life go well for yourself. So that's how we deal with both, let's say, the positive dream, or a fantasy, or a positive daydream, but also a nightmare, right? The nightmare is more of a warning label, whereas the pleasant pleasure dream perhaps is more of an advertisement to say, oh, do it this way, buy this product, so to speak. And by product, of course, we mean do life in such and such a way. Engage in this style of living, this patterned way of managing challenges. All that makes sense. If not, please type in some questions into the chat window, and we'll attend to that right away. So there's our basic premise of early recollections and dreams. They are warning labels and advertisements. Warning labels and advertisements. So as we're asking clients about early recollections or dreams or daydreams, what I'm thinking about as I'm talking with clients are, how might the warning label read here? How does the advertisement read here? And the reason I want to do that is because, boy, they're kind of the rules of life that clients live by. And of course, the rules of life that clients live by, that's what Adler called a private logic. It's a way of thinking and processing information and seeing and perceiving the world that is specific to us. This is what's most important. This is what's most frightening. This would be the most apocalyptic outcome. This would be the ideal outcome. That's our, perhaps Adler's term of a fictional finalism, the ideal that we set up for ourselves, that we want to strive towards and seek. Life would be meaningful and pleasant if, and we could fill in the blank. Or Adler sometimes talked about as a life meaning. We could complete the sentence. Life means, be perfect, or at least hide your imperfections. Okay, so there we have the advertisement. The advertisement says be perfect, and the warning label says if you're not perfect, learn to hide your imperfections really well. Does this start to make sense? Okay. Now, one step further, right? Let's say that we were to get kind kind of a list of all these advertisements or warning labels that our clients have on their lives, right? Or that our clients superimpose on the world. They paste on this person, watch out, that's a man, and men are mean and they're apt to reject you. Or here's a really overwhelming challenge, and that means that you're going to fail, and so don't try, right? I mean, these are warning labels or advertisements that we paste onto the world. If I can do that, then I get to see the world as the client sees a little bit better, and that really helps me conceptualize their treatment concerns, right? So if I have a client who perhaps is quite anxious, and I start to see warning labels that read a certain way, well, now I know what the threats are, right, that they want to attend to, and some of the things that they're probably anxious about. Also, if, let's say, we have a client who has, let's say, an anger management problem. Okay, well, I want to know how the advertisements read, because the advertisements are the things that they most want to seek after. Paul Rasmussen says that anger is the entitlement emotion. It's the thing that alerts us to the fact that we don't have something that we feel entitled to. And so if I can know what the advertisements read like, well then, gosh, like I have a pretty good sense of what they're probably angry about. Now, I don't know for sure. I don't want to adopt a pet theory. We talked about this in our last webinar, but don't want to adopt a pet theory, but I can make some pretty good guesses about what's going on. And that, of course, also helps me to design treatment interventions. Now that I have this case conceptualization, I have a sense of what my client is after, what they're moving towards, and what they're moving away from, to use Adler's language, what felt plus they're moving towards, what validating state they're moving towards, and also what felt minus they're trying to move away from. What's the compelling state that they're trying to move away from? That is just immensely helpful in conceptualizing the case, which also helps me plan treatment interventions. So if I've got this client who perhaps they feel entitled to respect, all the advertisements in their life say, get respect, life will go well for you, and be meaningful if you're respected by others, if you get their applause. Okay, well then, one of the things that I can do, right, is I can help them to understand that there might be some mistaken ideas that they have about how important respect is and how entitled they are to the respect and admiration and applause of others. Not in a judgmental way, but of course in an encouraging way that says, geez, I wonder what other advertisements, I wonder what other validating states might be available to you. And actually, I wonder, does this anger, does it actually get in the way of you being respected the most that you could be, right? You're not entitled to anyone's respect, but perhaps you could be, actually gain a little bit more respect by feeling a little bit less entitled to their respect, and therefore not getting quite so angry, and you don't blow your top, which of course doesn't tend to improve people's sense of respect for you and admiration for you. So these are all, that's just a basic process, right? Here's the basic theory of why I'm asking about early recollections or dreams or daydreams to begin with. Here's, and I'm going to show you in a second how I go about asking about them and the kinds of information that I'm looking for and how I'm processing that information. I use that to conceptualize the client's symptoms, to understand their usefulness for the client. And then beyond that, I use that case conceptualization then to plan treatment interventions and understand what mistaken ideas I might help my client to do away with, and to help them find something that's at least a little bit less mistaken and a little bit more oriented towards getting along with others, attending to the demands of life, work, and the social task, and the task of developing loving relationships. Okay. Again, if there's any questions, just type those into the chat window on the right. I'm going to go ahead and ask Lindsay to come up. I've got a chair for her here, and I'm going to show you a basic process that I use to ask clients about their early recollections. I would do the same thing for dreams. I would do the same thing for daydreams. Okay. To be clear, not everybody does it this way. And I've seen, like we saw, what was his name? Gary Bauman at a conference in September, a great clinician who works with early recollections in a slightly different way. And it was awesome. I mean, it's really like his approach is fantastic. This is just one approach that's worked really well for us. We found it to be valuable, but by no means is this the only way that you can handle these things. And the same would be true. You know, not everybody handles early recollections and dreams or daydreams in exactly the same way. But this is just something that works really well for us, and we want to share it with you. So here's my partner, Lindsay. Lindsay works with me here at Travelers Rest Counseling Associates. We started this practice together. We have a lot of fun running this practice together. It's possible that she may have shared this early recollection with me, but we have not rehearsed this today. I mean, I haven't talked with her. If you do share one that you've shared with me before, it's probably been years.
No, I picked a brand new one.
Okay, it's a brand new one. So I don't know how this is going to go. Maybe I'm going to look like a real putz at the end of this because I'm not going to know what to do with it. But we'll trust the process and try it out. And if it bombs, we'll just have a laugh about it together. Okay. So here's what I want Lindsay to do, and I'll tell you, but I'm also telling her at the same time. What I want her to do is I want her to tell me the memory as best she remembers it. I want to make clear to her that it is utterly unimportant to me whether what she's telling me is factually or historically accurate. The only thing that I care about is that she remembers it this way. And what I'm doing there, right, is that I'm not interested in the accuracy of the memory on a historical level. I'm interested in how her mind works and the story that she's telling herself, because I want to know what warning label or advertisement she's developed for herself or for the world. Okay. So that's thing number one. I want her to tell her. I want her to tell me the recollection as best she remembers it. I want her to tell it to me in the present tense. The reason for that is that often it helps a client to be a little bit more immersed in the recollection, and so they're putting themselves in the recollection and kind of experiencing it over rather than recalling it just as, oh, this happened in the past. Now, I'm not going to be a stickler about that. Okay, if she uses the word was instead of is, I'm not going to freak out or hit her with a ruler or something. We're not going to do that. And the other thing, I'm just going to put a slight boundary. I'm going to say, oh, somewhere, maybe as many as 6 sentences, probably no more than 8. And what I'm doing there is I'm just saying we're looking for a short story. I'm not looking for a conglomeration of a whole bunch of memories of, oh, we always used to go to grandpa's. Now, if a client offers something like that, I'm not going to shut them down. I'm going to gather that information and do the best that I can with it. But I guess the ideal for how I work with these things would be a discrete, unique memory of one moment. I'm also looking for something more like a movie scene rather than a snapshot. So if the memory is, I'm sitting in grandma's living room and there's a fire and it's Christmas time. Okay, now that's a splendid memory to have, but there's not a whole lot of movement. And as Adlerians, right, we're looking for movement. We want to see how things develop. Now, if we added to that memory, I'm sitting in grandma's living room, there's a fire and it's Christmas time. Then grandpa comes in and trips on the carpet and breaks his hip, and I help him to the chair. Okay, well, now we've got movement, right? And there's things that are happening, and we can see how the client is making life go well for them or not. Warning labels, advertisements. Okay. Now, huge preamble to that. Sorry, this usually goes quite a bit quicker with clients. I'm more concise. But so with all that being said, what I want you to do is I want you to think back as far as you can in life and just tell me an early recollection that you have of life, present tense if you can, somewhere between 6 and 8 sentences.
Okay. Brand new one here. I'm probably 5 or 6.
Well, speak up so everybody can hear you.
I'm probably 5 or 6 years old, and I'm in our living room watching TV. And on the screen is a commercial for broccoli. And it's this steaming, beautiful pile of broccoli with cheese getting melted all over it. And I think to myself, this is the ticket. This is how I'm going to be able to eat broccoli. So I turn to my mom, who's cooking dinner, and I ask her, can you make broccoli like this? And I guess she says yes. And next thing I remember, we're at dinner. She serves me the broccoli. It's got the cheese all over it. And I go to eat it. and I start to gag. It's disgusting. And my mom holds out her hand for me to spit it out. And that's all I remember.
Now I'm going to play a little bit of catch up. I try and write these things down word for word as much as I can. In a second, I'll read it back to her the way that I have it. It will not be word for word. I can guarantee that already. But I'm just trying to make sure that, yes, I heard it the way that you said it. On occasion, I'm a little bit more of a stickler about the accuracy, and I make sure that we get the exact wording down. But by and large, really, again, we're just looking for what's the narrative arc? What's the story that they're telling themselves? What's the advertisement or the warning label that they're creating? And so I don't want to get too bogged down in all the details, but I'm going to play a little catch up here, okay? Okay, so now here's what I have, and I want you to correct me if I've got anything wrong, okay?
Okay.
So I'm 5 or 6 years old in our living room watching TV. There's a commercial for broccoli, and it's this delicious broccoli with cheese melted all over it. And I think to myself, this is how I can eat broccoli. I ask my mom if she could make it that way, and she does, and I try it. I start to gag, and she holds out her hand for me to spit it out.
Yeah.
Okay, I got it. Okay, now, so again, you heard, right? It's not word for word, and probably there's some details that it might be some word that she used that maybe I missed or wrote down wrong, but we're getting the gist of it. So here's what I'm going to do with it now. I want you to tell me what's the most vivid, clear element from this recollection. Just sticks out as being most clear.
My mom holding out her hand.
Okay, now why I'm paying attention to what's most memorable, okay, is that this is, let's say, if it's an advertisement, okay, this is maybe the photo that sits behind all the lettering, right? This is what draws your eyes. Okay, this is the focus, and that gives me some sense of what I'm working with. I can imagine all kinds of things that might have been vivid. You know, maybe it's the cheese dripping off the broccoli, or that feeling of gagging, or the taste of it. I mean, there's all kinds of things that might have stuck out in front, but for her, it's mom's hand. I don't know what to make of it yet, but I'm paying attention. Okay, now for you, what's the emotion that sticks out to you?
Relieved.
Relief. Yeah.
Relieved, yeah.
Okay.
Relieved.
Okay, now for you, no right or wrong answer. I want you to tell me what's the precise opposite of relieved.
Burdened.
Burdened. Okay, now and I've mentioned this, I think in our first webinar. I always, whenever I collect an emotion from somebody, or they offer one, right? Maybe they're just chatting to me. Oh, I'm feeling so stressed this week, or wow, I was really worried about such and such. Then I always, whenever I hear that, I ask for the precise opposite. It only takes about 5-6 seconds or something like that. And what it does for me is it gives me what's the felt minus that they're trying to move away from, and what's the felt plus that they're moving towards. Now, if she'd given me burdened as her emotion, well, then I want to ask the opposite of that, right? So that I know, well, what is it that she wants to move toward? What is it that she wants to feel instead of burdened? So it's relieved. That's a more validating emotion of, oh, thank goodness, right? That's an oh good feeling. But part of what that tells me is, oh, I would rather feel relieved than burdened. This is the guess that I'm making about Lindsay, is that she would much prefer relief. She's generally going to be moving towards relief and away from burden. Okay. Real quick strategy gives you an immense amount of information that's super meaningful. So thank you for that. But I would never have said burdened, right? That's something that's particular to Lindsay and the way that she sees the world, to her private logic and her lifestyle. Okay, now, last question here. I want you to imagine that this story, that this memory that you told me, I want you to imagine that it's a fable, like Aesop's fables, right? Like Tortoise and the Hare. And if we think about Tortoise and the Hare, it has a moral to the story, right? Do you remember the moral?
Slow and steady wins the race.
Okay, slow and steady wins the race. So it's just this short little phrase, a moral of the story that kind of sums it up, right? It says, this is what the story means. And so what I want you to hear for the purpose of this webinar is, this is how the warning label reads, or this is how the advertisement reads, okay? Now, Lindsay, I want you to pretend like this is a fable, and no right or wrong answer. I want you to tell me what the moral of the story is for you.
First thing that comes to mind is trying new things doesn't have to go perfectly.
Okay. I want to make sure to write that down. Now, this I am a stickler about getting the exact wording, and the reason is because this is the meat of it for me and for Lindsay, with how we work with early recollections, dreams, daydreams. We're trying to distill it down to this moral, okay, of trying new things doesn't have to go perfectly. Now, just one quick note on this. Sometimes clients give a moral that's it's contextualized it's very specific to the dream or to the memory. So, for instance, she could have said, trying broccoli the new way doesn't have to go perfectly. Okay. Now, if she were to give it to me that way, I might ask her to decontextualize the moral for me. To say, yeah, and I'm wondering if we could strip the details of that out that are specific to the story, and if we were to make it just applicable to life in general, not just to eating broccoli or what's for dinner or how we're eating or how things taste. What might it be? And then it would probably go something like this: trying new things. So broccoli, it's not just broccoli, it's new things, right? Trying new things doesn't have to go perfectly. And that's what I'm always trying to get to is, what's the general rule? What is the warning label or advertisement that doesn't apply just to this one specific situation, but really to life in general? Okay, that's what I'm looking for. Now, how we doing? We're doing great on time. Let's do a second one, don't you think?
Sure.
I'll usually collect somewhere between 3 and 6 early recollections. Same for dreams, although sometimes I'll collect a few fewer dreams, but also get some daydreams. Really depends on the client and how the session's going. If we're starting to catch on to some themes or make meaning out of some things. But okay, let's get a second here.
Okay, so I'm probably 6 or 7, and I'm walking into an elevator that's full of people. And I stand in front of the buttons, and I just like I hit all of them, and they light up like a Christmas tree. And then I look over and up, and there's this man, and he just rolls his eyes and sighs. That's all I remember.
Okay. As Adlerians, we're always interested in directions of up and down. Now, see, she's in an elevator, right? Which, and presumably, we might say she's probably going up. We don't know, but maybe. So we've got up and down movement here, and then she looks up to this person. Now, what we're hearing there, right, or at least what we're listening for. At least we're listening. We don't know for sure, but what we're listening for is superiority, inferiority dynamics. What's up and what's down. Okay. Okay. Now I'm almost done. I'm going to play catch up here. Okay. Now I think I'm forgetting right at the end because I got a little too distracted with talking rather than listening. I'm sorry. So you look up and see a man. He rolls his eyes and
just his whole body just sighs.
Okay, now I'm going to read it back to you to make sure I'm getting it. I'm 6 or 7 years old. I walk into an elevator full of people. I walk up to the buttons. I hit all the buttons, and it lights up like a Christmas tree. I look up and see a man, and he rolls his eyes, and his whole body sighs. Yeah. Okay. Now, again, tell me, what's the most vivid, clear element from that?
The man sighing.
Now, see, and we can think of 5 other things that could be the most. I mean, for some, maybe it would be all the buttons lighted up, or it'd be how full the elevator was with people, or how exciting it was to be in an elevator, or who knows what it might be. But for her, it's the sigh. It's the well, I won't read into it too much. It's the man sighing. The emotion that sticks out to you?
2 come to mind. Ashamed and annoying, which is not really a feeling word.
Okay, and now when you say annoying, is it that you felt that you were annoying?
Yes.
Okay. Annoying. Now, that's an important clarification, right? Because it could have been annoyed. Like maybe she's like, oh, this guy, he's such a stickler. He's such a stick in the mud. He needs to chill out a little bit. That's not what she's telling me. And I need to be clear on that so I get the emotional flavor of things. By the way, I never, if a client offers me 2 emotions, I'm not going to shut them down. Okay. Now, if they offer me 10, I might say, I wonder if maybe we could condense this a little bit. But 2, that's just more information for me. That's really helpful information for me. And maybe it's just that the warning label reads a little bit longer, or that it's giving 2 messages at one time. Okay, now for you, no right or wrong answer. The precise opposite of ashamed.
Confident.
Confident. Okay, and for you, no right or wrong answer. What's the precise opposite of annoying? Feeling that you are annoying.
Cooperative.
Now, see, I would never have guessed that at all. I'm glad I asked. Okay, now let's treat this like a fable. What's the moral of the story?
Sometimes when you have fun, it inconveniences other people.
Okay, now, Lindsay, when you said that, there's something about your body language, and you just tell me if I'm misreading you. It kind of felt like maybe you pulled a little bit of a punch with the moral that you gave. Yeah. Now, I'm wondering, it's okay if you want to pull the punch. It's fine if that's what you want to do. I'm wondering if I would like to invite you to unpull the punch and give me the full Monty here.
Like what I was really thinking?
Yeah.
If you have fun, people won't like it.
Okay, now see, doesn't that packs more of a punch? Okay, to stick with the punching metaphor. I don't know why I'm doing that, but that packs so much more of a punch. You see, I mean, that's a heck of a warning label, right? The other one, of course, again, there's nothing wrong with it if that's how it reads. But I don't know if y'all saw it in her body language, but maybe it's because I just know Lindsay, and I mean, we spend a lot of time together, and so I maybe I could read a few things just by virtue of our friendship with one another. But I got the sense, yeah, she's not quite saying it like she feels it, right? And if I can read it like she feels it, then I've got such a better sense of what the advertisements or warning labels really look like as she surveys the world, and that helps me, of course, with case conceptualization and planning treatment. So now tell it to me again. When you have fun, people don't like it.
Yeah.
Did I get it right?
Yeah. When you have fun, people don't like it.
Okay.
Or if you have fun, people won't like it.
Okay. Okay. Now, here's what we do with this. Okay, I'd get anywhere between 3 and 6 of these. And what I'm starting to look for, okay, is I'm starting to look for some, let's say, moral themes. And when I say moral themes, I'm not talking about so much right and wrong. Okay, I'm talking about these morals, like slow and steady wins the race. Okay, like a moral to a fable. I'm looking for moral themes that just seem to kind of pull things together a little bit, right? And create a unified, and this is Adler's idea of holism, right? A unified way of making your way through life that's directed in one direction, towards an imagined goal, a fictional finalism. So now, a few things. One is that Lindsay has been so helpful to be here with us and to share something authentic from her life. And so I'm not going to do her the disrespect of sitting here and psychoanalyzing her or anything. We're just demonstrating a technique here. But what I might do with this, right, is I'll tell you some things that I might be thinking through, some guesses that I might make, and then we'll hash that out with, we're doing great on time, with some case conceptualization. Oh,
We could do it if you want.
Let's put a pin in it, and we might have time for that. But okay, so here's what I'm paying attention to. Okay, on the one hand, I'm looking for a few things. When things don't go well, does this move her into cooperation with people or into competition with people? That's almost thing number one that I'm looking for. Okay, so in this first recollection, what we've got, right, is she thinks something's going to go well. I'll tell you the story this way. She thinks that a new experience is going to go well, and it doesn't. But what she finds is that there's somebody else that's there, okay, to help, to be there for her. Now, we'd probably need to know more what it might look like in her current life for somebody to hold out their hand and catch the gagged up broccoli. Okay, I don't know what that might look like in her current moment, but at least what I'm doing is I'm paying attention to this dynamic of there's somebody there to cooperate with, to be with her, to help her manage the challenge, to work with it. And I love this moral that she makes out of it. Try new things doesn't have to go perfectly. And if you're an Adlerian, right, I hope what you're hearing, right, is there's a courage to be imperfect there. It's not, don't try new things because they're bound to go horribly. Don't assume that the cheesy broccoli will taste great. It probably will taste horrible, right? And if we decontextualize that, don't think that the shiny thing is going to fix everything. It's probably going to be disappointing, right? No, instead she makes this really courageous meaning out of it to say, try new things. It's just that you're trying something new, and so maybe it doesn't go well at all. But it's not the end of the world. There'll be somebody there to hold out a hand to you. There's something kind of metaphorical, right, about holding out a hand. Mom's holding out a hand to her and being a bit helpful. So we see some cooperation rather than competition. I guess you could read it differently. I know Lindsay well enough to maybe read it a little bit more that way. Also, this dynamic of relieved and burdened. Okay, there's a relief for her that mom's hand is there. That's the most vivid element for her, right? That mom's hand, there's something relieving about it that relieves her of what the feeling of being burdened. So one of the things I might start to guess about Lindsay is I'm wondering, geez, if things are going poorly for her, how much help does she have? How burdened does she feel by the challenges that she's facing right now? When and where does she feel relief? Is there any relief to be had? Who's holding out a hand to be helpful? Okay. Maybe if I took a little bit more cynical of a view, which I just don't with Lindsay, because I know her well, and again I'm not reading it with a blank slate. Okay. But I might say, I wonder how much Lindsay needs a hand, right? Is it possible that maybe she kind of, if she's got gagged up broccoli in her mouth, and by that what I mean metaphorically, right, is that she's tried something new and it's gone poorly. She's not enjoying it. Does she then look around for a metaphorical hand to puke in, right? Is she saying, well, who's going to help me with this? And perhaps not, it might not be that she's stirring up a good bit of self-reliance in herself to manage it. And that's, of course, not to say that getting help is inherently pathological, but there's a kind of help that actually can be competitive, where we say, oh, you're my slave who will catch my gagged up broccoli if I try something new and it doesn't go well. Rather than saying, oh gosh, something's going really poorly, could somebody help? Which perhaps is a little bit more cooperative. Is it making sense what I'm saying there? Yeah. Okay. Now again, I'd probably read it the first way, the more positive, cooperative way, simply because I know Lindsay. Now, with this second one, okay, so here's what happens, right? Again, I'm paying attention to cooperation and competition. And so here she is, right? And she's 6 or 7, which if you remember being 6 or 7, you're not really thinking about all the social faux pas when you walk into a cool elevator with a lot of buttons. It just looks like, oh, look at all those things that you can press and make them light up. She's just being a 6-year-old kid, you know? Mm-hmm. Nothing too bad about it. But so she walks in and she does this, and she's really enjoying it. How did you put it? That it lit up like
a Christmas tree.
Like a Christmas tree, right? And so for lots of us, right, a Christmas tree. I mean, there's not all that many things that are as in a kind of ubiquitous way that they hold such a feeling of joy and excitement and happiness, right? Now what she does, right, is we want to see, okay, so she's had this nice, fun experience. Now what she does is she socially references, right? She kind of searches around to say, okay, I've had a great time. Now what do folks think of it? Okay, also a normal thing for a 6 or 7-year-old to do. We shouldn't read too much into that or pathologize it. But so she looks up, okay, and we're hearing, as Adlerians, or if you're not an Adlerian, I'm saying this is what an Adlerian would see or listen for. You look up, and so you're looking to the position of superiority to say, okay, make your judgment about my fun. And the judgment is not positive, okay? And the message that she gets from this eye roll and the full body sigh is, you're annoying, okay? So part of what I'm saying is, this is how the warning label reads: don't be annoying, okay? Don't be annoying. Don't let your fun annoy other people. And how she wants to be instead is cooperative. So we'll circle back to that in a second, because there's something to be said about that. Understandably, also there's this feeling of shame, right? And of course we've got this distinction between guilt, which is I've done something that violates the social order of things, and so I'm aware now that I've done something outside. I've done something taboo, yeah, and I feel guilty about it. But shame is I am taboo. And this would make sense, right? Because there's something about fun, right? And you're just not acting as it, but being a 6 or 7-year-old kid. She's just being a kid, pressing things. And the message that she gets is, you are annoying. Not, you've done something annoying, or you are in the act of annoying me, but you are annoying. So she feels ashamed. Now, the question would be, how does she want to feel instead? Well, she wants to feel confident. So I'm gonna make maybe some slight guesses about Lindsay, and they might go something like this: that, well, she would really like to feel confident, and sometimes does feel quite confident. But the moment that she violates or gets feedback from somebody that she deems superior, okay, and that's not positive, she's going to say, there's something wrong with me, and her confidence crumbles. Really, really tough, right? Really tough way to make your way through life. Really difficult way to make your way through life. And of course, part of what you're hearing here, right, is there's competition here. And here's part of what I mean by competition. She's looking up, and so there's the superiority-inferiority dynamic is exacerbated, right? It's highlighted. And she's looking to the superior person for feedback. Tell me whether what I did is good or not. Now, the shame. Okay, let's talk about the shame for a second. Here's the thing about shame. Shame is an emotion that alerts us to social taboo, to us being a certain way that puts us in threat of rejection. Okay, but here's the other thing about shame. Here's a way that shame can be, and of course, I'm making a guess here about Lindsay. I'm not making assumptions or telling you something about her as a sure thing. But shame can also, it can be performative. Okay, and it's not to say that somebody's malingering, like they're making up their shame. I don't mean that at all, but it can be performative, as in this. If you walk by somebody on the street and they're doing this, they're curled up in a ball and they're covering their face, right? And this is the body language of shame, of I will hide because I'm not worth looking at. Hiding is the only way that I can protect myself from rejection. Well, the thing is, how are you, particularly, as therapists, how are you going to feel if you walk past somebody exhibiting that body language? What would you say?
You're going to pay attention.
You're going to pay attention? Okay, now see, that's helpful to me, right? How she answered it, it's not how I would have answered the question, but it's an important thing that's how she answered it. So they would pay attention. What else how might somebody react?
Show care and concern.
Care and concern. Okay. Now, and it might even be, and again, I'm not saying this about you, but in some cases, it might be pity, right? Now, here's the thing about pity, is that if I can get somebody to pity me, now who's in the superior position? I'm the one that's in control, right? Because I've kind of conscripted somebody into my service to give me care and concern and whatever else, right? And so probably confidence is the remedy, right? That we would want Lindsay to have confidence, that she would feel sure of herself, that she'd have a courage to be imperfect, so that even if she gets some negative feedback, she'd say, things don't always have to go well when you try new things or have fun. Things don't always have to go well. But what she might do, it's possible that she could do, is to get more on the useless side of life, as Adler would put it, and exhibit a kind of performative shame that would elicit attention and care and concern, and maybe even possibly pity. And this is a way to remedy that. Boy, I'm looking up at somebody superior and they're bigger than me and they're rolling their eyes and it's a full body sigh. They think that I'm annoying, and I'm in a tough spot here. So these are the kinds of things that I'm paying attention to, right? Now, let's say that Lindsay came to me with depression. Okay, but you're welcome to sit up here, or you're welcome to sit down.
I'm going to go attend to questions.
Okay. So let's say that Lindsay came to me with these early recollections, and she's depressed. Okay. Well, two things. One of the things that I'm looking at is I see an advertisement, and I see a warning label. So advertisement, trying new things doesn't have to go perfectly. I want to snatch that up, okay? Because one of the things that I'm always trying to do as a clinician is that if I've got somebody depressed coming in, I've got to get them trying some things that they're not currently trying. And of course, maybe we could say that about every case, but they're probably not exercising much. I need to get them to exercise. They're probably not eating great, and maybe I need to get them to eat great. Maybe they've been out of work for a while, and I need to get them moving towards applying for jobs or taking some interviews or whatever else it might be. So I'm going to snatch that up and I'm going to adopt that. I'm going to take that language, and it might just be that if she's depressed, I need to point her towards that courageous advertisement that she does. She has it inside of her. She has the story inside of her that says trying new things doesn't have to go perfectly. And so maybe, I encourage her to, get a 10-minute walk in, but she goes for a 10-minute walk and this mean old dog comes and bites her on the leg or something. And she comes back to me as a depressed person might, and they say, see, nothing works for me. I try and do the thing to make me healthy, and even that doesn't go well, and I get bit by a dog, which that's pretty fair, right? I mean, that's a horrible thing to have happen to you, especially when you're depressed. But at this moment, I can orient her towards this advertisement because it's courageous, right? And it says, hey, try trying new things does not have to go perfectly. And of course, that's not me minimizing her discouragement or her feelings of frustration about, gosh, I really tried and it went so badly. But I can orient her to that, and help her start to pay attention. Where do you feel relief? What are the burdens that you're carrying right now? That's part of what's going on with depression, right? Is that the burdens have become so heavy that somebody looks at them and they say, I can't do it. And so then they depress, they withdraw. Paul Rasmussen calls depression the withdrawal emotion. We withdraw from the challenge, and then we don't pick up anything, right? We don't try new things. We don't do much of anything. And so I want to kind of know, what are the burdens? You see, I'm just using the language of the story that she has inside of her and the memory that she's reaching that grab bag and pulling out. I want to pay attention to that. So then we also got this warning label, right? Okay, I'll say this quickly, and then we'll take some questions. We got this warning label. If you have fun, people don't like it. Okay. Well, you can see, right, how that might manifest itself in a depressive personality. Well, see, Calvin, you keep asking me maybe to find some things that are pleasurable for me, but if I do that, then somebody will be upset about it. You see, and life just starts to look so discouraging, right? And so all the pleasure that's available, it also earns you a negative response from somebody. Now, okay, really quick, let's imagine that instead she's anxious. Okay. Again, the advertisement here, we can use this to say, hey, even if things go badly, it's not apocalyptic. This is an important thing to communicate to somebody who's anxious. Even if things do go badly, as you worry that they might, it might not be so apocalyptic as you'd imagine. And then, of course, if you have fun, people don't like it. Well, what's she going to be anxious about? She's going to be anxious about this feedback from other people, particularly those that maybe she perceives to be superior. And we shouldn't have this now because we're equals. But if she had a boss, right, or a parent or a grandfather, or she runs into a policeman or whatever else it might be, anybody that she would perceive as being superior, she's going to be really anxious about getting negative feedback, and she might organize her life around avoiding that potential threat. And of course, that might cause her some trouble. So this is how I'm taking in the information, using it to form a case conceptualization, and of course we can talk a little bit about how that might frame treatment interventions. But I think I spoke to that a little bit. Okay, I see one thing here from Frank. Helpful way to cover teaching points and remove mystery or magic. Respect that you did this without obtaining a presenting problem, which makes the job easier for the therapist. Absolutely would be easier to have a presenting problem. But, and Frank, I love that you put that, this isn't wizardry, right? It's not me mind reading. It's learning to look for certain dynamics, to ask certain questions and pay attention to certain information. If what I get obsessed with is the way there's something, maybe a little bit symbolic about the way that the cheese is melted on the broccoli, or, and I try and make a little bit too much of that, boy, I can get myself into trouble, or just kind of treat myself like I'm some kind of psychic or wizard. And it's not about wizardry. It's just about paying attention to what's the meaning. What is the warning label or advertisement that they've made for themselves? Kevin, I see something from you. Lindsay's nonverbals throughout can keep the therapist's interpretation on track. When you were looking at the camera, we could see her subtle and not so subtle nonverbals, but I don't think you did. At what point do you notice and ask to go deeper, as you did with the pulled punch, or do you make the complete guess interpretation prior to re-involving? Kevin, just so glad that you mentioned that. Of course, anytime that I'm doing these demonstrations in a more didactic environment, I'm not as attentive as I would really like to be with a client, right? I don't talk, I talked 95% more than I would with a client as we're doing this demonstration. I'm really, really closely paying attention to their nonverbals and getting feedback. And sometimes I'll say something, say, oh, that wasn't quite right. I know that you're telling me that was right on, but I just got the sense maybe that wasn't right. Wonder if you can get me back on course. I'm doing that all throughout, really involving them in the process. And so this process, it goes a little bit slower when you're doing it with clients because you're checking in with them, giving them time. Of course, Lindsay, she's also trained in this and maybe probably has thought through some of these things, and so it's quicker to come up with these answers as well. Sometimes it takes clients a while, particularly with the morals question. That often, I mean, I've sat here for 5-10 minutes with clients and just given them time and space to think about it. They'll give one and say, no, that's not quite right, and then they make it a little bit better and they work their way, but it could take some time. Really good question about keeping a client involved. You want to do that. Any other questions, feedback, things that we need to clear up before we finish? We're doing great. Just one other thing I'll add. Part of what's nice about this approach too is that when you work with dreams, dreams, I mean, they get weird. You're like, well, I was in Red Square, and for some reason I had an elephant's trunk, and it's, I mean, all these very, very strange details, and things are kind of magical. But again, really, what you're looking for, you're not looking for, well, what does the elephant trunk mean? I mean, maybe it means something, but maybe not. And so what you're really looking for is, well, what's important to the client? What do they notice? What's the emotion that it evokes? Okay, and what's the warning label or the advertisement that gets pasted onto all these things in life for them as a result of the dream? What's the story that they're telling themselves? What's the narrative arc they're telling themselves? Even if we think about something like Pinocchio, right? I mean, it's a weird story. Oh, there's a puppet and it comes to life, and for some reason when he lies, his nose gets longer, and then he goes to this weird island where if you hang out there, then you turn into a jackass, and then he escapes from the island and swims into a fire-breathing whale's mouth and saves his father. I mean, it's just so convoluted, right? But if I tell the story to you this way, well, somebody's trying to figure out how to really become a whole human being, and part of what they learn is that to tell the truth, to really tell the truth, even when it's difficult, even when it's really frightening, that is the way that you become a real boy, so to speak, that you become a real person, and that you become a participant in the human community. Well, see, now it starts to make a lot more sense, and it's stripped of some of the magic of it. Okay, John, very nice job. Enjoy the demo, perspectives and insights. John, it's so exciting to have you with us. I'm really, really looking forward to seeing you again. I was thinking that we might be able to reconnect at NASAP. I'm so bummed that we're not going to get to see you there in person. Maybe we can connect some other way. Kim, I really enjoyed your demo and thoughts. Calvin, thank you. Thank you so much for joining. Although I think I saw all the way from the UK. So wonderful to have these international get-togethers in the middle of our week. This is awesome. Thank you for joining. If there's any other questions, I want you all to feel free to email me or Lindsay. Our email's Calvin, CALVIN, at travelersrestcounseling.com. Lindsay's is Lindsay at Travelers Rest Counseling, Lindsay with an A, LINDSAY, not EY. Feel free to contact us anytime about this. We love helping other clinicians and also just connecting and chatting with folks. So, been wonderful spending time with you guys. Hopefully we'll see you soon. Oh, last thing. We have our final webinar in this series next week. It'll be on mitigating anxiety from a pandemic. So we'll just be talking about some COVID pandemic stuff and how we, both for ourselves and then also for our clients, how we can attend to the anxiety, but also not do some things that might exacerbate it and make it worse. That'll all be from an Adlerian perspective. Would love to have you guys join us next Thursday, 7:00 p.m. Eastern time. So hopefully we'll have some of you guys with us then. Wonderful to see you guys. Thanks so much.